many rivers to cross, but I can't seem to find my way over.
Hello, I'm a little late with my August update on the JMT conditions. So here we go. Today is about August 21st. Is it August 21st, Jody? Mm-hmm. And so why am I wearing this? Because you're going to be wearing this on the trail if you're hitting the trail right now. So keep one of these handy. I usually wear a hat under this so it keeps it off your face. I always keep this handy. Mosquito net. Mosquitoes are going to be a beast out there in most places. So the usual places are like Tully's Hole, Vedette, the low valley areas are going to be really bad for mosquitoes. So keep that in mind. Usually by late August they're not too bad, but this year they're going to be around. So this year, even though it's late August, the conditions on the trail are finally getting good. So my earlier videos I was warning about, I always have a lot of warnings in these videos, and I do that to try to make sure everybody has a good time and to make sure everybody is safe out there. So as you know, it was a really high snow year. We lost a couple hikers this year on river crossings. So in early July there was one on the JMT in the South Fork of the Kings. A solo hiker drowned on the JMT. And we lost another solo hiker in northern Yosemite. The one on the JMT was South Fork of the Kings, which there was a go-around route, so you didn't have to cross it twice. Now the regular route is crossable, finally, but that's just recently. There's still a lot of snow out there. The one in northern Yosemite was a solo hiker that drowned on Rancheria Creek. Again, a solo hiker, but those were in early July when the conditions were really, really messy out there. For experienced hikers, they were able to get through, but it was dangerous, very, very dangerous. So I always have warnings in these type of videos, so I'm going to have some warnings about late season hikers too. So the conditions are much better. The rivers are all crossable, but they can still be dangerous. So if you don't feel safe about a river crossing, please remember to wait till other hikers come along, and or else look for an alternative crossing. Or if you can't find an alternative crossing and you don't feel safe, turn around. You know, your life isn't worth finishing the JMT, but from now till the end of the season, conditions on river crossings aren't your worry. There's other things to be worried about besides that, and I'm going to go over some of those things. So with the conditions this year, there's a lot of people starting now, and a lot of people, I'm afraid, are starting in mid-September, going into pretty far into October. And when you go that far, you really want to finish by the first couple weeks of September. And after that, you could be subject to some different weather conditions, possibly some snow, and you have to be more prepared. So I'll go over that stuff. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to some of the areas I get some of this trail info from. John Ladd on the John Muir Trail Yahoo group site, he's been posting some awesome information from other hikers. So a lot of the information I was passing on in my earlier videos were from him. You can find things from the Sequoia Kings Canyon website and the Yosemite websites. They're typically dated when they hit on their trail conditions. So they're okay, but it's better if you can call and get a hold of somebody. You might get a hold of somebody that knows the latest conditions, but they're usually 1 to 2 weeks behind. So those aren't the greatest. A lot of the info I was passing on were from the early PCT hikers, and I've had fun watching these guys. You might want to check them out just because they went through the JMT when the conditions were really bad, and they're pretty good videographers and entertaining. I've been watching Chocolate Balls. I've been watching a guy named Mitch Lennington. He goes by Dutch. He has some awesome videos, and there's this gal named Homemade Wanderlust that started off solo, and she's teamed up with some people. They're all still going. Chocolate Balls skipped a little section, but he's back on the trail. Anyway, they're fun to watch, and I got a lot of the trail conditions just from watching YouTube videos. So it's just a suggestion if you're looking at trail conditions. Sometimes you can find things from there. There's another site called High Sierra Topics. Topics is spelled T-O-P-I-X. I'm a member of that group, and they are really good with people post trip reports. So check out their forums. That's a great website for trail information. And I just want to let people know the best condition reports that you're going to get when you're on the trail is other hikers. So when you come up to other hikers coming the other direction, chat them up to see what's going on. Like what are the hard river crossings, how bad's the snow. So snow right now, you're gonna, usually at this time of the year, into late August, you shouldn't be coming across more snow, but there's still a little bit of snow out there. I hear the south side of Muir is still kind of messy. You gotta be careful. So you're gonna add a little time on some of those days. Mather Pass is always the other one that's one of the last ones to clear out, but they should be pretty good. You should not need micro spikes if you're going if you're starting now into early September, if you're going to finish by the end of September. End of September, maybe you would consider bringing micro spikes. Why would you need them then? You think because fresh snow, you're not going to be able to, they're going to be useless on fresh snow. What happens is during the day, snow melts, gets wet on the trail, and early in the morning, it's solid ice. One of the areas that can tend to be a problem is near the cables coming down on the front side of Mount Whitney towards above Whitney Portal. There can be some icy things. So if you're going into late October, you might want to consider those. And I'm going to give you some more warnings about doing it late October. So first of all, even besides the things you need to bring, logistics late in the season are a lot more difficult. So first of all, your resupplies. The resupply places start closing. So if you're going late in the season, you got to be aware of that so you can resupply. Because you can't do the whole trail. It'd be pretty hard to do the whole trail without a resupply unless you're a really quick hiker. So Vermilion Valley Resort, that's going to be your best option for late season hikers. They're scheduled to close October 20th. That's the last day you can pick up a resupply. Muir Trail Ranch, which is handy, they're closing on September 27th. So you got to get there by September 27th. Otherwise, you're going to have to supply it at Vermilion Valley Ranch. Red's Meadow closes around September 30th, depending on snow. Then you also have the Mount Williamson motel option over Kearsarge Pass if you miss those other resupply options. So those are dates you got to make those points. So keep that in mind. Transportation is the other problem. If you have a car, get your car to where you're hiking to. So if you're hiking southbound, you want your car waiting for you in Lone Pine or at Whitney Portal. I leave mine in Lone Pine because it's really easy to hitch down. But late in the season, it might be a little tougher to get a ride down. But get your car to the end of the trail. So if you're hiking northbound, leave your car in the parking lot in Happy Isles, the big dirt lot, and hike back to your car. Because your transportation options go away, start getting really limited in September and go away almost completely in October. So the way to get around, if you don't have a car, you either hire a very expensive shuttle service, or you take YARTS and ESTA. YARTS is Yosemite Area Rapid Transit. Starting in September, YARTS only runs on weekends, and they go away completely in October. So that's what you're going to use to get from Whitney Portal. It connects between Mammoth and Yosemite Valley. And so if you're picking up your car there or heading out to destinations west of Yosemite, you would take YARTS. But yet you connect with YARTS via ESTA in Mammoth. YARTS starts in Mammoth. ESTA is Eastern Sierra Transit Authority. You can either take that from Whitney Portal down to Lancaster to make connections if you're going southbound through LA or Vegas or in places like that. Or if you're going northbound, you take the ESTA to Mammoth, where you would make a connection to the YART system. Or if you're later in the season, you can take ESTA all the way to, I would take it to Lee Vining. And Lee Vining, you could hitch back to Yosemite most likely over Highway 120. I've seen people do it. It's pretty quick. I've hitchhiked on Highway 120 pretty successfully also, but it's kind of nice to have the bus system so you don't have to worry about that. You throw your crap on the bus and just relax. It's a pretty long bus ride. So ESTA Monday through Friday, YARTS only on weekends, so that makes some logistic problems. So you'd probably just I would take ESTA to Mammoth on a weekday and then just chill in Mammoth until the weekend. It's not a bad place to be hanging out. So, late season. There's other things you got to worry about besides snow and river crossings. You're going to get wet, by the way, even in August and September this year. In the drought years, you could stay dry the whole trail and maybe even have just one or two small wades. But this year, I think you're going to have river crossings. They're not going to be dangerous, but they're going to be knee-high. You're going to get wet a lot, so be prepared for that. But there are other things to worry about in late season. Fires are pretty common out here in California. There's a lot of fuel on the ground. We've had a few, but it hasn't been too bad this year. So keep an eye on fires. They don't normally close the trail, but sometimes they can make conditions really terrible where you can't see anything, and sometimes there's so much smoke around that you can't even breathe. But at night, all the smoke goes downhill as the air settles down lower. It kind of sucks the air down. So don't be discouraged if you get fire. You can usually hike through and get to better areas, but if there's a huge fire, you got to keep track of that. So be careful out there on that one. The biggest thing is for fire and snow, it's more important to have better maps and route finding ability and know your exit routes. So if there's a fire ahead or it starts snowing, you get stuck in a blizzard, you better know the ways to the trailheads that you can get out quickly if bad weather's coming. So how do you know if bad weather's coming? Well, the late season, the wilderness rangers are gone. So they usually leave about mid-September, early September. So they're not going to be around there to help you. You're on your own, so be very careful out there. You could rent an inReach or buy an inReach. You can get a weather report on that. Check with other hikers. Usually somebody has one of those. I use a Spot myself. It's a satellite thing where people know where you're at and you can call for help if you need to. It's not, there's no two-way communication though, so you can't communicate with anybody and you don't get weather reports. It's the poor man's. That's why I use that. So the other thing is, if you are going out late in the season, tell people where you're at. Leave notes in your car. Tell other hikers if there's like possible bad weather coming. If you need to be rescued, the more data people have about you, the easier you'll be to find in case things go wrong. Now, I know this sounds kind of like I'm making it sound like you could die on the JMT. You can. Last year, mid-October, about October 15th, I think it was, I had a trip planned out of Tuolumne Meadows with some friends. And we canceled. The weather was terrible. And sure enough, I forget the circumstances, but it was a experienced hiker. No offense to the family, I just want to use this hiker as an example of what can happen. He got stuck in a blizzard near Taboose Pass, near the JMT, and he tried to hike out in the blizzard, and he got lost. He was near his tent, but he wasn't in his tent. I'm not sure what happened. They didn't find him till this season. He was there all winter. Didn't make it. It's pretty common that somebody gets lost at the end of the season. So for you hikers that are going into October, I'd be worried about that. People finishing 3rd, 4th week of September, it's not as big as an issue, but the later in the season, the more prepared you got to be for the weather. So what do you mean by being prepared? It means you better have a shelter, you better have better gear, you better have warm enough clothes, and the deal is you got to have gear that you can ride a couple of days storm out possibly in, and you got to be able to stay dry. Say you're stuck in a windstorm or a rainstorm, blowing rain, you get wet and your gear gets wet. If you don't have the ability to get out of that cold weather into a tent, into a sleeping bag and get dry and get warm, you could die in 40 to 50 degree weather if it's windy. Wind chill and hypothermia commonly kills people in the 30s and 40s. Now, if you're going into October, I'd say you got to be able to stay warm in 15 degree weather, maybe less. I've been hiked twice in October and been in below zero weather above 10,000 feet. I was in my 20s. I was young and strong. It was freaking cold. It wasn't much fun. But one time I didn't have the gear when I was 20 years old, and it could have been bad, but I'm still here. But now the gear's gotten better. You need to have gear that you can stay dry, stay warm. So what does that mean? A lot of these ultralight hikers, they decide not to bring an item. Leave something else behind, like your little lantern or some other kitchen doodad, and bring an extra coat or something like that. So again, on clothing though, clothing's a tough one. For winter, this is what I usually use for summer hiking. It's an 800 fill Marmot downfill vest. I run warm though. I don't hike in it because I get really hot when I hike. But you notice the baffles on these are pretty wide. This thing stays really warm. This is a real coat. And then to try and go ultralight, instead of carrying a fleece, but in the winter I would carry a fleece too. I have this. This is kind of what they call this is a REI Magma. This is kind of like the new thing in down is, these are like sweaters. They call them down sweaters. This is 850 fill down, really good down. But you see these baffles are tiny and it's super light. I love this for staying warm, but it's not as warm as a real down parka with big baffles. And if I was going into October and I was expecting to be hiking into some snow, I'd have a hood on this also. This doesn't have a hood. This is a fall season. This isn't a winter thing. So go through your gear and make sure you know what you have, and you need to be able to stay dry. Down, of course, can't get wet. It's waterproof for a little while, but it gets wet. So it's all about layering, and you're layering, of course, no cotton. Look at getting some merino wool, some I bring long johns there's heavier weight long johns and there's lighter weight ones. In the summer I bring lightweight ones. But if you're going in October, you might want to look at getting some thicker long johns for staying warm. So don't take the Sierras lightly. They are, the weather can change so fast. So the fall can be a really rewarding time. It's actually my favorite time. I'll be on the trail a couple times in mid and late September, maybe even early October. I love that time of the season. I've done a lot of hiking around the backside of Whitney in mid to late September, and traditionally it hasn't been, I love to go there because I think we went to Guitar Lake and there was like 5 people at Guitar Lake, which was kind of amazing, in late September. And when we finished the JMT on September 10th, I think, and we shared the summit with one person for an hour, which was pretty cool, but it was like 8 in the morning. But now there's going to be more people out there late in the season because of a lot of people didn't get their permits earlier, or the conditions made people go out later than they normally would. So be careful out there. There will be more people out there, but don't think just because there's other people that you're safe. People hiking in October need to have more experience. They need to know where the exit trailheads are, and they need to be on their own and figure out things on their own because there's not going to be as many people to help you. So it's more important in the late season to be self-sufficient and really know what you're doing, and tell your relatives where you're at and when you're due back, so people can come look for you, and instead of finding a corpse the next season. So sorry for being so morbid, but I do these videos to try and help you have the good time and help you live to hike another day. So make sure you got good gear for these late season hikes. So happy hiking, and if you have any questions, post them in the comments and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thanks, and have a good hike.